Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Look, Wrestling 101, classes in session. Pay attention to the teachings, that's from Andrew and Derek. I mean, these guys making a killing with no competition. Dynamic duo better than the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Everybody make some noise, mess with them, you get destroyed. They cannot be beat, take a seat. Watch them do they thing on the MIC. Face defeat, they cannot be seen like JC. Oh my goodness, it's a killing spree.
Yo, this is Flip Gordon, and you're listening to Wrestling IQ 101.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Wrestling IQ 101. I'm Andrew alongside Derek.
Yep.
And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestling IQ 101. And today we're joined by the leader of the UWA Elite Army, King Tech, man. How's it going?
I'm all right. Fighting Kings here in the house, Wrestling 101, and I'm happy to be here. You got a very nice house, must say it.
So, King, man, what happened at Last Breath, man? How was that getting in the ring and competing there? Last show of the year, no pressure, right?
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I'm undefeated at Last Breath, and and I won at Last Breath, so that puts me at 8-0.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to have that kind of thing on an indie level, It's everybody sees that kind of streak thing, and they think obviously The Undertaker and his undefeated streak. So I think it's cool, like on the indie level, that in UWA and the consistency that UWA has enables me to even have something like an 8-0 streak at a show that legitimately, continuously, consistently runs annually and has for the last almost decade now. Like, that's crazy to me to think that maybe at one point I might be 10-0 at Last Breath. Yeah. I think it's not just a testament to me, but it's also a testament to our Fed, like I said, that can run a show and not miss one. It hasn't been, and Last Breath even goes farther back before the UWA Elite era. It's a long running show. Like the first Last Breath must have been like 2000, I think, something like that. So yeah, the history of that show goes way back. And it's really cool because I would say Last Breath, more than any other UWA show, is like the quintessential show of our season. Mm-hmm. So that would be a great one to have an undefeated streak on. And someone asked me the other day, like, is that something that, you had, earlier on you had wind? Like, did you figure that was going to happen when you were maybe 2 or 3 and it's like, no, the answer to that is absolutely not. Like, no way. And I think it probably was like for the same thing for The Undertaker. I imagine when he was up to like 4-0, someone would have looked at him and it came out of a time machine and looked at him and been like, you're going to be 21-0 one day in the future. He would just punch them in the face and be like, you're a liar. Not even Undertaker probably had any inkling of a thought that was going to be where it was going with that.
Yeah.
So I like streaks. They feel natural to me. Like, it's not a forced thing. Well, things in wrestling are, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now since we're kind of like talking about records, like when it comes to wrestling in general, do records really mean anything to you?
Yeah, absolutely they do. Mm-hmm. Because you are earning it in a way, I would say. People look at your hard work, and it's not just it. I always try to compare it to political, like government in a sense. Wrestling is not socialism; it's capitalism. You know what I mean? You work hard and you get what you earn. It's not they're not just blanket like welfare program to all wrestlers. Here, achievement for you, achievement for you, achievement for you, achievement. So when you get them, it should mean something if the company you're working for is doing it in the natural way like that.
Yeah. What do you feel like you're going to go next? Do you want to go to other promotions? Are you just happy at UWA Elite?
For the longest time, I have been. I have been very happy at UWA. I'm very spoiled in that sense, but I think for good reason. As I was just alluding to, UWA is a fantastic company, and I'm really into character and the story element of wrestling. And I think UWA is the perfect place to get that done, to have consistent storylines and a consistent character, and to have long-term stories and long-term arcs to character. I'm a big movie fan, so I actually put thought into that. Like, I love a character arc. Like, a good character arc is really the basis of entertainment, in my opinion, when it comes to movies, when it comes to wrestling, anything like that. And for a good character arc to work, there has to be more than just a wrestler going from fed to fed. You're never going to get that going from fed to fed doing that. It's fun, you get to wrestle, whatever, but you're not hitting that character arc. And like, if there's another fed out there that I see is gonna maybe be interested in my character, then I'm all for it. You know, we just got called by World One, and Brandon and I are gonna go over there as a tag team, and I like that they sought us out as a tag team. They sought us out not for the wrestling necessarily, but for the characters that they see we do in UWA. So if they want, maybe we'll do that over there. We'll bring that style that we have, that very character-driven style, to World One, and we'll see where it goes there. Yeah, I'm always open to do other wrestling things. I find that when they ask you, it feels better. You know, I guess that's, you know, you can go around just giving your name out to everybody, but like I said, I think it feels better when they call you, when they ask you, when they see your stuff. You know, it's ironic. I got World One. I'm pretty sure this guy messaged me because I dirty danced. That's the irony of it all. You know, it's not because of my wrestling in the ring, which I'm probably an okay wrestler, but he watched the Dirty Dancing video, and that really sold him. Like, oh wow, that's character, that's story. You know, I think that's where he found that interesting. And now we're gonna work over there December 1st against Protein Pack as a #1 contendership tag team match. I think that's also interesting of that me and Brandon are the tag team champions, and maybe that like can carry over to that fed, and they have their own tag division. And I think that the tag division is lacking in indie wrestling, like really good ones in feds, and even in UWA, which is incredibly consistent and incredibly story driven. Even in our fed, we have a hard time keeping and maintaining a tag division. So for it to spread out to other feds, I think that is really cool. And also, like, consistent tag teams, I think that's cool, too, you know what I mean? Not just two guys randomly thrown together.
Yeah. You know, the thing I like about you and Brandon the Bull, you know, you guys were on two different paths, two different journeys in the UWA Elite, both all-stars in your own right, coming together. You know, you guys said you weren't going to tag after you lost the tag team titles. That was the deal you made. You guys end up coming back and tagging. You know, what's next for you guys? You know, is it dominating the UWA Elite roster? Is it, you know, taking this as far as you can? Or at one point, do you turn on him, or does he turn on you? Have you guys talked about that? Well,
historically speaking, in UWA, it would probably be him turning on me because, I've been a good guy in UWA since UWA Elite started in 2011, whereas Brandon has more big showed it than I have, if you know what I mean, or Nia Jax, you know, with the heel face turns constantly. Yeah. So I could see it being Brandon, wink, wink, but no, I don't think so. I think our bond is very strong. I think that we have a very interesting chemistry. I think we have a very big guy, little guy thing going on. I think a lot of people really are into that style. You know, you have two big guys, two little guys, but it's very rare that you have someone who's Brandon's size and someone who's my size, and for us to make such a cohesive unit in the ring. As far as who we're gonna, you know, in UWA, who's next, I was actually just discussing that with Brandon yesterday. It doesn't even look like there's too many teams in the UWA at this point that could challenge us. You know, I'm not sure if they're going to put together some kind of #1 contendership tournament, maybe with some of the tag teams. UWA is very good at doing that too. So that, you know, I mean, they're something I'm a very big fan of is having #1 contendership like systems in place for the divisions. I think that's very important to keep a division healthy. You know, people just can't be like, oh, I have a title shot. Oh, no, I have a title shot. No, you have to actually like win a. So and it's good in UWA. There's tag team tournaments and stuff like that they do. Maybe like a round robin. Yeah, UWA is very good at that. Even on an individual wrestler level, they have tons of stuff throughout the UWA season to make you #1 contender. Say for the UWA Championship, you've got the Ultimate Turmoil, the Brawl for it all, the Crossroads. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I think that's one of the strong things about UWA, and one of the interesting things about being in the tag team division there. But as far as other tag teams, you got the stepdads. You know what I mean. I could see Brandon and I doing, maybe getting into it with them. You have the lower branches of the Severed, which I could definitely see being a tag team. Joey Adams sending out his troops after us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he has an axe to grind now at UWA Elite.
Yeah, he's probably not a happy camper.
Yeah, for that 4-way match.
It was an incredible match, and from my point of view, in my opinion, it probably was the match of the year. Which I didn't want it to be, because in historically in UWA, the main event of Last Breath is a front runner for match of the year, because it's the freshest. It was the last match. It's the freshest in people's minds when they go to vote in a few weeks or whatever, when UWA will put up all the nominations and all that stuff for the different awards coming up soon. I would say like within a week or two. But I have to admit that match probably is match of the year. And that's not, I'm not going to take anything away from Joey Adams. You know, he did kind of cheat to get the belt, but once he had it, you know, he does prove that he is an incredible technical wrestler in the ring. He does know what he's doing, and he's not only relying on the cheap tricks. I just wish that he didn't use the cheap tricks, because I think that he can be champion without that. But we have the new champion, the Wretched Bose. And boy, does he give our roster the willies. You know what I'm saying? He's
definitely.
I've had my battles with Bose in the past.
Not just the guys in the locker room, but the fans.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of them cringe when he comes out, because
Yeah.
you know, the lights go off and you see this big guy in the entranceway. Yeah,
I think Bose is a great character in UWA. I think that he channels the Undertaker in a way that does not quite mean he's copying him, but also doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Like he walks that line very well, I think. And he's his own character. He's the Wretched.
Yeah.
But he's got that feeling that you get when the Undertaker used to come out, or Kane used to come out. Abyss, maybe, in TNA back in the day. Any of these great characters that we remember. Roller did great in the match. He came up short. The pile driver that Bose gave him at the end of that match, probably one of the sickest pile drivers I've ever seen in my entire life. Oh, TJ Blade. It's a shame, because he really was on top of the year in UWA, and then after that fatal 4-way, you kind of like see him at the bottom of the pile, and I don't think that's fair, because I think he worked very hard this year. It's a shame that he didn't come out on top at Last Breath. He was kind of going into it my pick, because I feel like people were underlooking him or underestimating him going into this match. I would have liked to have seen him win, but it doesn't surprise me that Bose won. He probably had one of the most dominant years of wrestling I've seen in a wrestler, especially in UWA, in a really long time. You know, I would imagine Bose will probably get some messages soon from different companies. You know what I mean? I think people are probably going to start to take notice. Bose is very good at what he does. Scary, but good. In 2003, I went to BWO in Garfield, New Jersey. I went there for about 2 years. It was Richie Rotten was running that school, and they would put me on their shows. I challenged for the BWO championship. And ever since then, I've just been doing UWA, maybe a few other feds here and there. But I look back at it now, and I wish that I maybe would have taken a different path about 10 years ago. It's tough, because it's hard, because I'm not exactly the biggest guy in the world. I'm not huge, 6 foot. I'm not 300 pounds. So it would have been a lot of hard work on my end, but it is what it is, and I'm here. I'm happy to be in UWA, because as I've been saying throughout the podcast, I think UWA is like a mini WWE. Yeah. Is WWE like on a smaller scale, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling is very interesting nowadays, because you got guys who are like wrestling like deep into their 40s. Like, some guys like Angle. I don't know how old is Angle. Is he like? I feel like he's like 50 already.
Yeah, he's approaching 50.
Yeah, so like you got guys that's going a long way. Even AJ Styles, how great he is, he's like 41. So I don't know. I don't think.
Yeah, Samoa Joe too is another one of those guys.
Yeah,
He just,
yeah.
He
late
gets better
late
with age.
bloomer.
Yeah.
He
They're
gets
all late
so better.
bloomers. Yeah.
Yep.
I see Samoa Joe every time on SmackDown now, and I just smile. Like, this guy, he was the best in the world in 05 and 04.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy could still hang in there with so many of the guys on SmackDown. He doesn't do many of the things that he did back then, but what he's doing now has impact. That's the thing I like about his maneuvers now. They're not, he's not flying around like he used to do, but from the
More aggressive.
yeah, it's different. It's a smarter Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
It's well put together. I remember my favorite thing about Samoa Joe was it was so subtle too, where he beat the crap out of Christopher Daniels and he just put the blood on his towel, and then like the following week he just beat the shit out of AJ and put his blood on the towel, and he just walked to the ring wearing the blood on like as a badge of honor. And I'm like, this guy is so smart. Like,
So, and I think a lot of it too nowadays is basically staying healthy, and a lot of it is the look as well.
Yeah,
like you look at AJ Styles, you don't think of him as 40 years old. If I look at him, I don't say, hey, he's 41. Look at you, I don't think 32.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think a lot of it is the look, and as long as you can maintain your health, it's like, I think a perfect example, I look at it like, I think of LeBron James. LeBron James, he gets older, he gets better because he trains hard.
Right.
He makes sure he stays in good shape. He doesn't get injured. You know, you can't prevent injuries, but you know, he does everything he can to not get injured. So I think that a lot of it is just, you know, like,
Well, it's very debatable when a person's in their prime. You know what I mean? A lot of people claim that a wrestler's prime is when they're younger, when they're like in their early 20s or even before they're 30. But you may be onto something there. A lot of people would argue that a human or a wrestler's prime comes when they're like at that most mature point. More like 30, 32, 35, that area when they've had the experience and everything on top of all that. That is the true prime. You know what I'm saying?
Which is funny because I was talking to Elliot Barat. He's a wrestler. He wrestles for OTW, and he said that for some reason it clicked for him in his 10-year mark, and that happens to be the sweet spot for a lot of people. After 10 years, things start to click for you. Did you feel that way after 10 years?
Yes, absolutely. You know, you could probably look at it like that moment where you realize that, and everything before that is like you almost want to forget it even existed.
Yeah.
After that moment, you do have that moment, and then you just want to wash away everything before that moment, like almost in an embarrassing kind of way. Like, really? Sometimes I'll watch some of my old matches and I'll be like, really? That was me.
But don't you need that?
That's a different person.
But don't you need that to learn, though?
Oh, absolutely. You know, if without that, then I wouldn't be where I am today with the lessons that I've learned. Absolutely.
So it goes one hand without the other. You know, you need both to balance.
Right.
Yeah, but that's pretty interesting that you wish you kind of forget some of those early things.
Right. It helps if you have that, if that period is shorter. If it's like real only a few years when you're younger. It's not good when you stretch it out to over like when you're 30, and then at 30 you're like, oh, okay. Everything before 30 is like meh, and everything after 30 like is pretty good. But it's experience in a lot of ways. You know, it's being in the ring with all different people and different types of people. And over the course of my career, I've been in the ring with pretty much every style of wrestler you can imagine. And I think that's a good thing to have, you know, to get in there with the big guys, the little guys, the cruiserweights, the heavy hitters, the this and the that, you know, and have experience with all kinds of different wrestlers.
Definitely. Now, you kind of said, you were talking about characters, and you said you think like you're an okay wrestler, a good wrestler.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, my first time going to UWA, you were one of the people that I saw, and I just thought, like, because, you know, when you go to an indie show, there's so many indie shows. This is my first time being at UWA.
Okay.
You know, you don't know what to expect. There's so many indies. Sometimes you think, like, oh, man, like, this is going to be bad. So it's like...
I know.
Yeah. I'm sitting there, and I'm like... And then I saw you in a match, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, these guys, like, everybody, like, was there. It was just like, Brandon Kirk was there. KTB was there. It was just like all you guys put on a great match. And it's like, you know, if anybody comes and it's like you see, and you'll be like, oh, I don't think these guys will, you know, just by looks.
Right.
But then when you see like the skill that you guys all
Right.
have,
We're
it's
not-
like amazing. It's crazy.
Right. We're not like the muscle bound freaks
Yeah.
of in that sense. I get exactly what you're saying.
And don't say
You
you're
ca-
just good, man. You're a great wrestler.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think what makes me interesting, my wrestling interesting, is that I have unique moves.
hmm
And I think that's something that's very rare in today's indie wrestling. I think a lot of guys are just playing, like they're taking other people's moves, or
True. Yeah.
oh, that move from No Mercy, or that move, that cool spot that, you know.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of people out there like that. They're very, you know, cookie cutter. I'm going to do, you know, whatever, the same finisher 18 other guys do. You know, I have a lot of pride in that. That's one of my favorite things about me, is that my moveset is unique. And that's one advice I would give to a lot of other indie wrestlers out there, is that that's where you want to apply your creativeness, is into that moveset. It's not easy to come up with moves. Obviously, wrestling's been around and has been matured now for 40, 50 years. So it's hard to find a move that's like, oh, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
You know, but okay, for example, the technical knockout, one of the moves I do, it's a chicken wing jawbreaker. I don't know if you've ever seen me do it.
hmm
You can Google it. It don't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And honestly, I think back of it, and I always try to think back of, like, how did I invent it? I don't even remember how I invented it.
Yeah.
It just kind of appeared there, you know what I mean? Okay, then you have the technicality. My finisher is double underhook Faymaster.
Yeah.
I've never seen that anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, the cannonball for the longest time was a unique move. I see it. Maybe there's I think, what's her name does it? Blanchard.
Oh,
Tessa.
Blanchard.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
she does like a version of the cannonball senton. I don't know if she's like fully grabbing the knees like I do. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes me an interesting wrestler, is my unique move set. I think that being my size and having to fight uphill, so to speak, you know, as Blade says, wants to ice skate uphill. I've had to ice skate uphill my whole life, so it has created more passion for me in the ring. You know what I mean? It's made me focus. And I like the fact that I've always been the guy that's been beat up, because I think that one of the most important things in wrestling is selling in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And it's an art that's lost a lot among a lot of wrestlers. I don't because of my size, I'm forced to sell, and I think people, whether I don't know what their opinion on my selling is, but they would be like, well, he's one way or the other, whether it's good or bad, they'll be like, Tech is an interesting seller. Like, I yell a lot. I'm very like passionate in the ring. Like, I find that a lot of other indie wrestlers are like boring in that sense. I'm not invested in your match because you're not really like selling. I guess I don't know. I keep going back to that word, but you have really got to be emotional in the ring like that. I think fans like that, you know.
Yeah, I think one thing Derek was trying to also touch on was how that card, no matter what card it is from UWA Elite, always just builds up and builds up. You're like, man, this match can't live up to that match. And then it does. You're like, what the hell?
Right.
And that's it. You know, from the opening match to the main event. You know, every match, you just want to be there at UWA Elite, and you really can't beat it. I mean, it's $20. It's in South River at the Holy Trinity Church, and you know, you're gonna see a great show.
UWA is a fantastic company, and I think that for a lot of reasons is why I never really focused on my individual success, because growing up and being in UWA, I always kind of felt like UWA was special, and I think it is. And I was always more interested in advancing UWA's forward and progressing UWA as opposed to progressing Tech or progressing what I wanted to do. Basically what I'm saying is I was more invested in making the entire Fed of UWA. I want that to be big before I'm big. You get what I'm saying? And if I'm ever big, it'll be because I rode UWA to the top. And I think that it's
That's pretty
a good way to commendable. I think that's UWA is extremely special in that sense. The guys on the roster, a lot of us have been wrestling with each other in that same ring going all the way back to 2000. You know what I'm saying? My first match in UWA was in October of 2003. If that gives you any idea of perspective, like, I've been with UWA for a long time. Out of anybody on the current UWA roster, I've been there the longest. And I think that's something I hold very close. I think that's very special. Yeah, and it helps when, like, kind of like with why the matches on Raw I think are so good is because a lot of these guys, they wrestle each other 100 times within a month. You know, like look at Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. How many times they wrestle in this year alone? You know, and I think when you're around the same guys and you're wrestling them over and over and over again, that's what creates what you were just alluding to, like these special, like the fact that we could just keep topping it every other time. It's the story, and it's the fact that we've been in the ring with each other for so long. I know everybody on our roster's moves. I know everybody almost better than I know myself. So that's why that happens.
Yeah, just the atmosphere itself from the commentary. I mean, you can listen to those commentary Zombies that you put. I mean, you put those packages together.
Yes, that's another thing I do.
Right. I remember you telling me. And you can hear, you know, where you put those sound bites, and those moments connect with people.
Right.
You know, those are the things that you can't put a price on. You know, those are the moments where either you're watching it, and sometimes you can hear Colin and Corvus from the stage area. You know.
So that's the thing with other indie wrestling. How many indie feds have you guys been to where they don't have commentary on their show? Right. And to me, I've always felt like commentary is half the battle. Yeah. Like you're fighting handicap. You're fighting on one leg if you don't have commentary. Like that's what they're there to put you over in every sense. So right there, you can tell the UWA is like in a way a cut above the rest. And the ironic thing about that is a lot of these feds have a ton more money than we do. You know what I'm saying? And we still put forward the things that you would expect from that. You know what I mean? Even though we're doing it on a far less budget. And as you alluded to, I do the editing. I do the videos and all that. And I guess later on we could talk about maybe if you want to let me, I can plug it or whatever. You know, maybe I can get some messages in the future. But I think that what makes me really good at it is not just that I'm a great editor, but because I've been involved with wrestling and more importantly UWA, and I understand how stories work from that experience and how to really put together like a great wrestling package. Not just a package. I can make a package for anything. I can make a package for your concert, your wedding, whatever. But I can make a great wrestling package because I am a wrestler. You know what I mean? It's that marriage of the two that I think really is what makes my videos like a cut above the rest. When people see them, they're like, oh, wow, that's special. It's because I know I have that timing in the video. Like, I know how wrestling videos should work. You know what I mean? I always wanted to do it ever since WrestleMania 17 Rockin' Austin video, you know what I mean? Like the quintessential video. Quintessential. You know what I mean? It doesn't get old. I still watch that video today and I'm like, wow, that is fantastic. Awesome, that is a fantastic package video in almost every way.
Yeah. So you kind of alluded when you just said like, you know, some companies have more, you know, money. The thing I like that you guys do at UWA is that, you know, you can see you guys are investing in your stars and creating your own stars.
Oh, we're very homegrown.
And a lot of companies, I feel like they get you to come to their shows by booking a star, and their stars all over the poster and everything. But you guys are like completely different, and I think that's a better way to do it. To create
it's a harder way to do it. It's a harder road. Yeah, but it's a better road.
But if you're successful, it pays off. And I think you guys, you have like great fans that like you have like they come out like all the time. You guys have a show, and I love your fans too. The fans are just as entertaining as
we have fans that fight over seats. Like they're their seats. Like nobody like they literally every seat in the house is accounted for before the show even starts. Like reserved in that sense because most of the fans that come to our shows are not new fans. Like I would be nice. We do have new fans. Don't get me wrong, but we almost sell out that church every month with just the fans that come to every friggin' show.
And it's funny too because they show up in the summer, in the heat of the summer. For 7 shows.
It's incredible.
For 7 days.
It is incredibly hard to run a show in the middle of July when everybody's down the shore, when everybody's out, wants to have barbecuing, doing whatever they're doing. And I don't blame them. I probably wouldn't want to go to a wrestling show, you know? Like. But
the fair, they go every day. You have the same people show up every day.
The fair
is crazy.
Yeah, they are pretty crazy. But I think that we've taken, speaking of the fair, I think since UWA has taken over the fair, I think it's grown incredibly. You know, I mean, the Fed, I very vaguely remember the Fed. I couldn't even tell you the name of it, but you might know because you live right here.
CJ Summers.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name offhand.
But
I remember watching CJ Summers, and
you know,
he was a rock star, man.
CJ Summers Spring Break.
They were literally doing the same match every show, each day, same match over and over and over again. What's incredible about
Irish
UWA at the fair is that we do 7 days of wrestling with how many matches on each day, and every year each day is different. Like, and we don't treat it like a house show. Like, we don't treat Tuesday at 6 o'clock like a house show. That's what's fantastic about it. I'll tell you what, it's hell week coming from my point of view. Having to go through a week of wrestling like that is not easy.
Well, I've seen Joey Adams at like every show like the last 2 years.
He is definitely, I would say, since we started doing the fair, Joey Adams is by far and away the MVP of the fair. Every year he is there every day getting his butt whooped. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all of you guys are. I mean, that's the crazy thing about the fair.
Everybody
shows up.
Every year I set out I'm like, I'm gonna take maybe 2 or 3 of the days off. Every year I say that to myself, but then it comes and I get swept up in it, and it's a lot of fun, and I end up doing every day and every match, and I'm always out there. I can't not do it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first talked 2 years ago, when we first started talking, and we interviewed you out there.
Crossroads.
I did not think how emotional that tournament would have been for you. I didn't even think not that I didn't think you could have won. I didn't know who was going to win that tournament. You had so many people in that beginning of that tournament that eyed up that trophy.
Right.
They eyed up that moment that you had, and you ended up taking that.
Yeah. I think that shout out has to be made though to Brandon Kirk that year, in that tournament. Brandon Kirk did fantastic in that tournament, and it's a shame he's kind of gone the way he's gone lately, but I think that Brandon Kirk has the potential to make it to the highest levels of what we do. Mm-hmm. Same thing with KTB. I think KTB has the potential to do that too. KTB and Brandon Kirk. But Brandon Kirk, he's Dean Ambrose in a lot of ways, and I've always very much been a big fan of his style. I think he's excellent in the ring. I think he's
you actually faced him.
Some of my favorite UWA matches are against Brandon Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I would say my top 3 favorite UWA opponents are, and this is in no order because I don't want to get messages when I hate messages when I get home. I will. They'll get pissed. Bose, Kirk, and Vertigo are my 3 favorite UWA opponents. I think all 3 of them are incredible.
Those 3 guys tower over you too.
Yeah, no, that's the interesting dichotomy of it all. I'm very much. Maybe it's because I'm used to it, but it's always been the story of my wrestling life is going up against guys that are like 2 or 3 feet taller than me. But that's cool because then I can specialize in bringing them down. And it's the bigger they are, the harder they fall, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But this year coming up, I'm really, 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 really would like to get into something with Bose. I would like to challenge him for that belt at some point. I think that me versus Bose versus Tech is got money written all over it. I think that if you look at some of the battles we've had in the past, they're really very, very, very good. John and I grew up together in the same town. You know what I mean? John Bose, even though he's 2 feet taller than me, let's put it this way. I've known John Bose so long. Bose. I guess I stopped calling him John. Someone will get mad at me. I've known Bose for so long that there was a point in time when I was taller than him. That's how long I've known him.
Oh, man.
Wow.
We were like going at it in preschool.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, at a time where wrestling now, you got like Daniel Bryan just won a championship.
By kicking him in the nuts.
Well, yeah, against AJ Styles, who's another guy that's not really a big guy. You got Rey Mysterio, legend. Do you still think that stereotype of being small is still like something that's a burden to helping wrestlers succeed today?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I could hear Vince saying it.
I was about to say, everybody has the Vince McMahon syndrome.
He's a little too small. I don't know. I don't know. Could he be? I need someone a little bigger.
Oh my goodness.
You know.
Well,
It's
Vince's
tough.
days are going
Right. He
going
definitely
down now.
has it. You know, you feel like he's definitely set in his ways. But like you said, he could be on his way out soon.
Yeah.
I love Vince. Don't get me wrong, but I'm fairly confident he would look at me and be like, a little too small.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh man, that's funny. Triple H would love you. You'd be on NXT.
Yeah, 205 or something like that. You know?
205,
Yeah.
right?
I think my gimmick probably would be a strong point. You know, I think I have a very interesting character that, again, like my moveset, which I say is unique. I think my character is unique in a lot of ways too, and that's another thing that UWA is an incubator for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you were talking about before, the homegrown talent, and through that homegrown talent, we have created characters in UWA that are truly unique, which is very rare if you ask me in indie wrestling. A lot of wrestlers are just putting on trunks.
Mm-hmm.
They can say, "Oh, I'm gonna do that move, and that
Kick
move."
pads.
Got some kick pads, got some trunks, and they're Bobby McBobby,
Yeah.
and they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in UWA, there's a chance to do that, to like have create these characters. Like the Wretched Bows is a great example. And like, I don't want to toot my own whistle, but I guess that's what I'm here to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Civil War, the Vietnam, and the Sparta thing is very interesting in wrestling. And when wrestling fans ask me like, "Oh, explain it to me. Why do you do that?" I say, "Well, think of it this way. It's kind of like Prince DeVitt's comic book characters version history. In a lot of ways. You know how Prince DeVitt, before Finn Balor, before he went to the WWE, were coming out. He came out as a Joker. He came out as Carnage. He came out as all these different. I guess a few horror icons in there too. And I do that with the history stuff. It might not be as pop culture-y, but I think it's also cool that like maybe some kids might look at it and be like, that's kind of interesting. I want to learn about the Civil War. I want to learn about Vietnam, or I want to learn about what happened in ancient Greece and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's cool. You know, maybe some young kid might look at it and take some inspiration from it.
Talking about the children, you come to that ring, and your entrance is a little bit different from everybody else because you give them your hat, you give them the helmet.
Right.
What do you say to those kids? You get to the corner.
I asked them if they're ready for war. I'm really just channeling, Bret Hart in a lot of ways. Obviously, being 32 years old, I grew up during that. That was like when I was that age is when Bret Hart was handing out the sunglasses. So that's just something that always like stood out to me. And I've always felt like if you really want the fans to invest in you, you gotta make them feel like you're invested in them. Mm-hmm. And what better way to do that than to like actually, include them in your character and make them feel like. I always refer like when I'm cutting promos or this and that, I'll never say I always say we. Mm-hmm. We are gonna do this. We are gonna do this. So I want them to feel like they're part of everything I do. That it's what they give to me. Their energy that they give to me is what makes my victories possible or any of my achievements possible. And I think that that resonates with them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think there's some money in this, man. I think Vince will like this, man. You can put a price tag on some guns, some helmets, some swords. Anything he can put money on, man, he'll like. But let's talk about
merchandise. Yeah,
that's what he loves, man.
I got the dog tags. I think that's my cool merch
that
right
too,
now.
Yeah, you sell all of it, man. So you do the wrestling packages. Have you said you're into movies? Have you ever thought about moving into filmmaking or anything like that?
Oh, I guess that probably would be, if anybody were to ask me that question, like if there was something other than wrestling that you could like go back and get into something else, I think I would definitely get into filmmaking. I think I have the eye, like a creative eye for it. I tell people all the time, like that applies to wrestling in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like my character is more rich and more nuanced because of my knowledge of movies and the knowledge of how movies are supposed to work. Like I was talking to you guys before, character arcs and all these kind of things that go into the movie. I think a lot of people don't underestimate how much that applies to what we do because it's entertainment. Yeah. Movies are entertainment, wrestling's an entertainment. Let's not kid ourselves. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. It's having on how to pull the strings, so to speak, those heartstrings and this and that. You get that. You pick up these little clues from watching movie. People pop culture is very important, if you ask me, going into, wrestling and applying it to wrestling.
Yeah, definitely.
So I take the movie knowledge is a good thing to have.
So what specialty do you think you would do? Are you more into like horror films, action, comedy?
When I was younger, I was into horror films. Now
Okay.
that I'm an older man, less so. But that's not because I don't think age, but more or less because I feel like horror movie quality has kind of gone down
Yeah.
lately. Don't get me wrong, there's some things out there that are pretty good. But no, I'm pretty much like a straight down the line general movie buff. So like I'll just go right on the IMDb and I'll go on the top 250 on IMDb and I'll just watch them, boom,
Oh,
one after
man.
another down the list,
Yeah.
because it does not matter to me what genre it is. If it's an 8.0 or above on IMDb, it has to be good. I'll watch like a romantic comedy. If it's
Yeah.
8.0, then I'm going to be entertained regardless of what the genre is.
Yeah.
I'm just all about watching great movies.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie of all time? That's tough. I would have to say it's either The Empire Strikes Back or
Okay.
Jaws.
Or Jaws? Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
I'm a classics guy.
My favorite two are Nightmare Before Christmas
Okay.
and Coraline.
Oh, okay. So you like animated movies?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You're looking forward
Like
to Toy
that-
Story
that-
4 coming out?
I don't know about that. No, this is a little bit different though. This is like Tim Burton style.
Right.
I like that style of like animation.
Mine's super bad.
Super bad. Okay,
And,
now that
Not
movie's a funny
surprised by
movie.
that.
That's what actually Superbad's a very good comedy. I would put in the top 25 comedies ever
And,
made.
Probably. Yeah,
and
for
Meet
sure.
Me at Olive Garden. It's a romantic comedy
Starring Virgil.
starring wrestling superstar.
No comment. No comment.
Is that even a real movie? What is that? Did you just make that
Yeah, I
up?
just made that
I
up.
was waiting for you to say The Room.
Oh my goodness.
You're tearing me
That's
apart,
horrible, man.
Lisa.
That's horrible, man. That is horrible.
Virgil's my favorite actor. He's also
His
my
favorite
favorite
wrestler.
wrestler.
His
Oh.
favorite stepdad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
His favorite everything.
he's actually my favorite stepdad to my stepdads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I told Wade and Bradley that they're my stepdads, and then like Virgil's like the stepdad that like marries like your mom like the last time because like,
Right.
Oh
she
my
just doesn't
God.
want to be alone anymore. Like she's like, this is the last time I'm getting married,
Jesus Christ.
and she just like settles with Virgil.
Let's talk about when you decided to get into wrestling. Like what was that thing for you that made you want to get into wrestling and decide like I'm gonna do this and take it seriously?
You're gonna laugh at me, because I said it before, and I said not to use this as a thing to use, but No Mercy really is what did it to me. Yeah, I honestly
Really?
I think it really was. Now, don't get me wrong, I watched wrestling before I was playing No Mercy, but it was something about that game and the way that game worked that you just wanted to like be that person you created in the game,
Yeah.
be that core.
Yeah.
And that Tech was like the first person I created in the game, and that's what it ended up being. By the way, it's an acronym. Not a lot of people know that. The
Yeah.
Extreme Kid.
The
Which
Extreme Kid.
I
Wow.
don't tell a lot of people anymore because I am no longer a kid. It's hard for me to
Yeah.
to go on that because I'm pretty much I'm a 32-year-old adult. So yeah, but that's the Extreme King. The Extreme King. The Extreme Kid. I guess the Extreme Kid would King would work.
Be actually
Yeah.
work now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And that would be fitting.
That's cool though. I think it kind of shows like your evolution though.
Right.
Like that's what you started off as, and now it's just Tech. It's not the Extreme Kid. I
right.
evolved into Tech.
Yes.
I like that. That's pretty cool. That's definitely cool.
How have you evolved? Because when you look back at those early days at UWA Elite, not just appearance wise, but how do you feel like you evolved as a wrestler and as a person?
Well, I guess when I was younger, I'll be honest, I probably was a little bit more abrasive. You know what I mean? It's wrestling is politics in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It's a minefield in a lot of ways. And even in UWA, even in something as great as UWA, you're gonna find that it's very much a minefield of politics, and navigating that is a learning experience as you get older and you mature and you learn and you realize, hey, that was really stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Blah blah blah, and and then that's it. You get over it. But I guess what did I learn as a wrestler over the 10 years? To To not do so many spots, to not be so flashy, you know what I mean? To calm down, like that's my conception as a wrestler, as a very young man, was very much in a spotty fashion. Like that was my thing when I first started wrestling, was just concentrating on spot. What cool spot. I guess the one thing that really you learn over the years is how to apply psychology and how to slow it down, and how to be smart in the ring, and to not do things that are unnecessary, I guess. Mm-hmm. A lot of things I did when I was a kid was unnecessary. Like I just said, I was the extreme kid, and the extreme part was to be taken literally. Like I did some really dumb stuff when I was 17, 18. I got shot in the middle of a match with a Roman candle. Point blank range.
Oh man.
Yep.
Wow.
Why? Because why?
Yeah.
I am gonna get into that. Yeah, I got shot with a Roman candle. Wow. I have been F5'd inside of an 8-foot ladder.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's probably one of the stupidest, craziest things. Now, I don't got nothing on some of these modern deathmatch wrestlers. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm tough, but. Not to them guys, I'm like a little wussy to Jeff, or like some of these guys, they're doing the deathmatch stuff now. But I was really very crazy back then. And, UWA and we all learn as we go forward, and wrestling changes. Like, it's crazy to me that 10, 15 years ago, like, the cool thing to do was to get whacked in the head as hard as you could with a fucking steel chair.
Yeah.
Like, and I look back at it now, and I'm like, how stupid was I to let somebody the size of John Bowes whack me in the head as hard as, like, think about that. Think about, like, how hard he must swing. Yeah, and then you look at WWE and you see they're doing it, like, on Raw in the most nonchalant, like, way. And I guess that's one of the things that is good. Like, we've learned so much about concussions and stuff like that we've kind of steered away from that. And I think wrestling's for the better for it, because nobody should be. Don't get me. I think that it can happen every once in a while, and I think it's better that way. I think it's better to when chair shots, when they happen, they're like, oh, that never happens. That's a big deal. Like
it means something.
It means something, exactly. And that's a lost art too in wrestling, is to build it. You do things over and over again, you lose the meaning behind them. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's one of the things I've learned, I guess, in the 15, almost 20 years now that I've been involved in wrestling. Anything else?
No, I think you touched on everything. I'm sorry that that happened to you. I think it's absolutely crazy.
What, the Roman candle?
Yeah.
I'll send you guys the clip.
It sounds like to me you need to collect the check from Matt Hardy and Broken Matt. Yeah. He was getting Roman candles, shooting them at people. He probably saw your videos.
He got shot at from a distance. I will show you the clip. It is the craziest thing you will see.
No.
Someone just literally 3 feet away from my chest. He's just like, it felt like flaming baseballs hitting me. That's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. I'm sorry that happened. Sorry, I'm absolutely sorry.
That was the extreme kid, man.
Man, I was not the extreme kid. I was in a bubble.
Yeah, and then this year I had that extreme moment. I got cracked open with the baseball bat.
Yeah,
which was actually a really, really scary moment for me, because he hit me, and I tell you what, like within a second of it, I was like, the first thought in my head was, are my brains leaking out? Like, I really thought they were. And I've done a lot of crazy stuff in wrestling, you know what I mean? I've done all kinds of manner of crazy things. But that was probably, in all of the years I've been wrestling, the scariest moment for me. The way he hit me, the way I was bleeding afterwards, it felt like he cracked my skull. And that, to me, that's like crossing the line between like what we do. Like, that's going a little too far.
But you always seem to have a will of a champion. I remember you hurt your knee, and you still defied doctor's orders and wrestled. Yeah. You know, at the next show, and I was like, this guy, he just has the will of the champion. You know,
I'm surprised my left knee still functions, to be quite honest with you. It's really kind of coincidental and funny that they just keep targeting my left knee. Why do they keep targeting my left knee, guys? Why can't they go after my right knee every once in a while? Wink, wink.
You know. The thing I always love about you, talking about the champion spirit in yourself. Yeah. I was just doing some research on this. a match against you and Nicolas Cage, the I Quit match.
Oh, yeah.
A match that you didn't want to quit. I mean, you were kind of backed into the corner
Right.
into quitting because of how low Nicolas Cage stooped. And even when that happened, you could still see on your face, this wasn't over for you. You know, you could kind of see that.
Yeah.
You know, there's that kind of stuff you feel like, you know, resonates with the fans, the knowing that you're going to go out there, whether you're hurt or whether you're getting beat up and circumstances may not be in your favor, that they're going to get behind you.
Yeah,
fans.
no, they usually never are. Yeah, I think that going forward in UWA, I think the greatest story going forward pretty much in UWA is me chasing that championship. I've never once held the UWA championship, and I think that the fans probably would want to see that at some point. Mainly because, as you said, I think they see every month how much I fight.
Is that the only title you haven't had in UWA?
I've never held the Ironman
The
belt.
Iron Man. Okay.
I've been I-champion. I've been tag team champion. Yeah, and that's it.
Iron Man and
So I need the Ironman and the UWA championship.
Yeah.
But the fans, it's right there in front of them. They could see it every month. It's on full display what I do. You know what I mean? I think, and as you guys said before, there's fans there that have been coming for 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. Think about that. Like, UWA is really consistent. Like, okay, the last 4 years, I want to say 4 or 5 years, we've been running on a monthly basis. But before that, going to 2011, we were running on a weekly basis. Every weekend, we were wrestling. We were putting on a show. And there's still fans that I saw out there at Last Breath that were there for our first ever pro show back in 2011. And that, to me, is fantastic because they see, like, there's no break in me. Like, I've never once taken time off. I've never once, went away for a year. So there's a bunch of wrestlers on our roster that'll take time off, that'll go away. No, I've been doing it for 8 years, nonstop, and I think the fans notice that. So I think they really are invested in me going forward to see me finally, like, get over that hump and to become the UWA champion. I think that it's a hard fight for me because a lot of guys might say, oh, Tech's too small or too this or too that to be the UWA champion. So I think there's a story to be told there. A really interesting one.
When I think of that story, I kind of think of, Daniel Bryan. Everybody thinks of, him as the ultimate small guy.
On my YouTube, I quite regularly get comments comparing me to Daniel Bryan. They say I am the UWA's Daniel Bryan. Yeah.
Now, fans I think are pretty weird though. Because I think fans enjoy watching you chase the title more than they would seeing you have the title.
Yes. I've had people make that argument to me before. It's a nice argument unless you're Tech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, all right. Yeah, I've been chasing for 8 years now. So when does that road come to an end? I tooting my own whistle. I feel like anytime I end up with a championship in UWA, I make that championship mean more than it did before I had it. I think when I won I had the I championship record reign there. I think that elevated the I championship. I think now that I've won the tag team titles with Brandon and the chemistry and all that stuff that we bring to it, I think we've made the tag team championships interesting and good again in the UWA. Hopefully they don't fall apart. The belts are literally falling apart, so
Oh my god.
they need to be replaced very badly.
Oh man. Now, does it give you extra motivation? I would say, like, when I look at UWA and I kind of think of like the UWA originals, I kind of see you as like one of those guys.
Oh, I'm not only am I a UWA original, I am the original.
Yeah.
I am literally the longest consistently running UWA wrestler on the roster.
Now, does that give you more motivation that you should be the UWA Elite Champion?
Well, yeah, I think that it I don't know how to say it. Okay, so I had someone tell me the other day that if I won the UWA championship, that would be the end of UWA.
Yeah?
Really?
Oh,
Do you know what they mean by that? Do you understand what he means by that?
Like,
That means
Explain
that is the most important story in UWA right now.
I got
Is
you.
Tech chasing that belt, and once he wins it, where do we go from? Like that's the end.
I got
That's the
you.
final chapter in that book. I
get
don't
it.
personally believe that. I think, on the contrast, I think that UWA will go on long after without me,
Yeah.
and I hope it does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll always be a part of it. Even like when I retire, I want to become involved in the backstage and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I would be well suited for a position like that. Yeah, but that's what like that that's what they said. Like that is the ultimate thing going in UWA right now in a lot of ways is
Yeah.
how long Till Tech is on top of that mountain.
Yeah.
So
You know, from last breath to setting the standard, there's that break that UWA Elite has.
yeah, February 16th is setting the standard, I think.
What do you like to do in your downtime when you don't have to wrestle? You don't have to do anything.
Well, the gimmick extends to real life. Andrew likes history. That's right. My name's Andrew. Hi. I'm not trying to hide that. I'm a big fan of history. I'm huge into learning. As we got into before, I'm into movies. I'm into learning. I'm into reading. I'm reading a lot of nonfiction. I love reading about, as you could probably guess, wars and military history, but not just military history, all kinds of history. I have a girlfriend. We're very happy. We're going to be going to Florida for 2 weeks. We're going to be spending Christmas in Florida this year. It'll be my first ever warm-weathered Christmas, which to me seems
weird.
very bizarre.
Yes. To
what I
me
mean?
too, yes.
I'm so used to wintry Christmases here in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey, so that's all I know is the wintry Christmases. I like video games. I'm a video game guy, you know what I mean? I'm a nerd in that sense. I'm very much a nerd, I'm a big Star Wars fan, other than The Last Jedi.
Nice.
Did you think episode 1 was good?
I think episode 1 is not that great of a movie, but I think it looks fantastic next to Last Jedi.
Really?
I think now that The Last Jedi is out, I think episode 1's a fantastic friggin' movie.
I can't watch episode 1. I mean, I can watch it, but I just don't enjoy watching it.
Let's put it this way, guys. I could do an entire podcast with you guys just about Star Wars.
Really?
I'm very.
That's fantastic.
I think that that's very. If you guys ever, I could do podcasts with you guys on like anything. Like I say, I always say I'm very pop cultured. I'm minded like that. I could not have a wrestling conversation with you.
Let me ask you this: are you a Jar Jar Banks fan?
I don't hate him. I don't think he's the worst thing to ever happen. I think Rose Tico probably takes that distinction.
I love Jar Jar. I think he's fantastic, and everyone always gets mad at me.
Actually, there's I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Clone Wars TV show. It's on Netflix. There's actually an episode on it that's pretty good with Jar Jar, where he teams up with Mace Windu, and he's actually kind of a badass. And I if anybody out there is really hating on Jar Jar, I recommend it. It's in the last season of the Clone Wars, and he goes out with Mace Windu, and they're pretty badass. They make it so that he's a badass in that episode. So which is probably a pretty tough thing to do considering how goofy he is in episode 1.
Like people get mad because Virgil's my favorite and Jar Jar, and like those are the worst two you could
like
ever pick,
things
right?
Right.
Like the worst two, and I'm like, those are the best.
This is Andrew, and he's the extreme kid too. He does extreme things in a different way. Anything that's gonna get an extreme reaction out of you, that's what he loves.
Well, you're not picking the bandwagon things, are you?
Yeah, no, I'm maybe a little bit of a Virgil with the bandwagon, but Jar Jar, I love Jar. I think Jar Jar is like hilarious. Like, people get mad, like they're like, "You like him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I like him."
Right. Yeah, like I said, I don't hate him. I don't necessarily like him. I'm not like everybody else though. Like oh my god, it's the worst thing to ever happen ever.
Oh, like you really didn't like The Last Jedi, huh?
No, I think it's the worst. One of the worst movies ever made.
Really?
Yeah. Not only just the worst Star Wars movie, I think it's one of the worst movies ever made.
Did you see Solo?
Solo, yes, I've seen Solo.
Did you enjoy it?
I think Solo is a step up from The Last Jedi, but I think there's still elements in Solo that really hold it down.
Yeah. Actually, I really liked Solo, and I thought Rogue One was awesome too.
I think Rogue One is fantastic, and anybody who says to me, "Oh, you're just a Disney Star Wars hater," I use that as an example. I think Rogue One is absolutely
I mean,
fantastic.
there's no purpose to the movie.
I think that the end of that movie with Darth Vader cutting through them rebels at the end is probably one of the coolest scenes
Oh, yeah,
in
it's
movie
fantastic.
history. In all movie history, is him coming down, cutting them the rebels up in that hallway.
Yeah,
Gives me chills just thinking about it.
that was a fantastic movie for sure.
Force Awakens is okay, but Last Jedi, whew, I don't even want to. Like I said, we could do a whole podcast on how awful that movie
I
is.
thought Episode 2 was okay.
Episode 2 is another, just like Episode 1. Like, it's not that great of a movie, but compared to this new movie, it's suddenly looking like a masterpiece.
Yeah, and Episode 3 I thought was actually fantastic.
Episode 3 is highly underrated.
Yeah, I thought
Highly
that was-
underrated. There are more Star Wars like Episode 3 memes on the internet than you would like. It's insane the amount of like people still talk about that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Like people are obsessed with it. Like there's a lot of like Twitter pages that are like dedicated just to Episode 3 and
The ending is
all
phenomenal.
like it's such a quotable movie, Episode 3. You know what I'm saying? I am the Senate. Like everything in that movie is so quotable. Anakin, I have the high ground. You know, like everything about it.
Yeah, that was an awesome movie. It's so funny how like the original 3. You mean you couldn't top
They're
that,
untouchable.
Yeah,
They're
those-
untouchable.
But somehow they find a way to remaster them every couple of years, and you're like,
I don't hate the special
Yeah,
editions.
yeah. I'm just,
I like what they do. I like the changes.
I'm just was like, damn. Like, how do they just keep adding things that like you don't even think about that?
It's because
anymore, you know?
it's
Like,
because the canon keeps expanding.
Yeah.
You know, because you have the Clone Wars show, you have Rebels, you have
It's
you know
always
the
amazing.
sequel movies. So the canon, the universe is expanding, and that's one of the things I like about that. I like that he goes in and changes the special edition and adds like the little things. Like for example, Boba Fett is actually a clone of Jango Fett, which we learned in Episode 2. But the voice of Boba Fett in the original Empire Strikes Back is not that of Jango Fett or any of the clones. So they changed the voice of Boba Fett to match, so it would make sense in the canon, in like the storylines. I like those kind of things. I like those changes.
yeah, it's just always. I always just find that amazing. Like how they think about this stuff. I'm like, I'm just watching the movie as it's going by, and I'm like, why? Like, that's awesome that you thought, like, you put in some
Right.
time. Like, I didn't even think to do that. Like,
right.
you know, like, that's like inserting something to a wrestling match. You know, like that I watched like a million times. I wouldn't even think to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's crazy how they kind of do that stuff in Star Wars.
Who's your favorite wrestler? Pro wrestler?
Oh, my favorite? I told you already.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, Virgil. Well, I thought that was a joke.
He's
Come
lying.
on now.
Yeah,
Like,
who's
who, like,
your
no,
real favorite
right, for
wrestler?
real.
Vincent is my favorite wrestler.
See, I told you.
McMahon?
See, I tell you.
No,
that shit.
Vincent, the leader of the NWO.
Oh my god.
He's
Uh,
crazy.
No, actually, it's
I like CM Punk.
CM Punk is my favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you must be missing him, huh?
You know, I do, but then I think of like a good artist that died young. You know,
Right.
like
He
you don't
wasn't
wanna-
meant for it.
You don't want to
but-
touch
right.
the magic that he had. I mean, from the Straight Edge Society, from ROH. I mean, this even in
Right.
you know, this guy, he was gold. I mean, he could work as a bad guy. He could work as a good guy, and
But he was skinny fat. That's what they say about him. That's what the other
He's
guys
not
on
like
the
that
roster.
anymore. He's
Right.
cut up now. Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's cut up now.
but I think the way he looked was perfect. I mean, he could
Yeah.
combat the Undertaker
Right.
being a small guy, where a lot of people couldn't do that. You know, like
Right,
well,
right.
like look at the exceptions. I mean, like Shawn Michaels is probably the only smaller guy who looked like he could bring a big time fight to the Undertaker.
Right.
And he could. CM Punk could have. He did that with everybody. You know, Big Daddy V, or Big Show. You know, I don't know if it's the tattoos or the arrogance or something like that. But
Yeah.
the fact that that he was able to
Burn his
manipulate-
path. He
Yeah,
burned his
yeah.
path for sure. You know.
And you know, I respect that he died on his own hill. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, it was the climate that he was in. The climate of wrestling at that point, wasn't very healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people in his position probably would have just shut up and taken the money.
Right.
And the fact that he bet on himself, I mean, it didn't maybe pan out the way he wanted it to, but yeah, he has some gonads.
What about you, buddy?
Favorite wrestler all time is Shawn Michaels. My favorite wrestler of all time.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick.
Favorite wrestler right now in this like modern day era is AJ Styles for sure. Ever since TNA Impact days.
Oh,
I think he's just like amazing. He does some crazy things, and he does something you were talking about earlier. He sells like amazingly.
That's why
Brock Lesnar,
Johnny
sold so
Johnny
great.
Gargano, man.
Yeah,
He is the master of. He has mastered the art of selling, in my opinion.
He's another great one as well. Yeah, for sure.
I don't like to see anybody get hurt, but I was kind of happy it was just Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano at Takeover in Brooklyn, because I was like, these two guys are gonna freaking destroy the building. I was like, somehow Aleister Black, I like him, but I was like, these two guys just need to fight each other. They just
that War Games match is gonna be crazy, huh?
Yeah. But I'm like, these two guys just need to fight forever.
Yeah,
like,
and people are so invested in that story. Like, you really just hate Ciampa. Like, you know it's a story, but you still hate him.
Right.
And
that's very rare in today's wrestling world for a heel to actually get booed, but booed out of respect for his heelness.
Yeah, that he's such a good bad guy.
You know what I mean? They're not cheering him because they want. Like, that's what's interesting. I'm waiting to see if the fans boo Daniel Bryan because they know that
I don't know.
They respect him to the point where they, you know what I mean? Or are they going to Becky Lynch him? Fans are so weird today. You know what I mean? Like, are they going to Becky Lynch and just keep cheering him?
Well, it was weird because they were screaming yes.
Yeah.
When he was beating the crap
when he won
out
the
of
title.
Him. Right.
And I feel like when he became like really popular was when he was a heel the first time.
Right.
And he was doing the no, and everybody was chanting yes.
Right.
So I feel like for him, like, it doesn't work. There's only few people that are like natural, like, you just hate him. Like, I feel like everybody hates The Miz.
Right.
Like, he's so good at being a bad guy, you just hate him so much.
Miles Thomas.
Yeah.
UWA's version. Yeah. I can't in a million years imagine him, like, everybody cheer for Miles Thomas. Vote.
Right? Like, never. It's just certain people you just...
Yeah, it ain't happening.
You just gotta hate them, man. It's so funny. I guess that's good. As they're owning their craft.
Let me ask you this. Who do you think WWE is going to pick as their next golden guy? Because it can't be Roman right now because he's, battling leukemia. Do you put the ball in Seth Rollins' hand and say, you're the guy, or do you look for somebody a little younger?
I think they got their backs up against the wall in a lot of senses because there really isn't an obvious choice. I'd actually have to sit here for a good while and probably think about that. And even if I did pick somebody, he's not going to be the obvious choice, like a Rock obvious or a Stone Cold obvious. There's nothing on that level right now, and it's hard to say. It sucks to say that because everybody on the roster in WWE is so fucking talented right now. You know what I mean? But none of them as talented as they are. Even like Seth Rollins, like I don't see him as the household name. I don't think he'll ever be a household name. Like at work all the time.
I think that's why they panicked, and I feel like they panicked and they just gave the belt back to Brock.
Right.
Because everybody knows Brock Lesnar.
Right.
Even though he's not there all the time, and I think they feel he'll be in UFC. Oh, he could take the belt to UFC, be the first person to ever do that.
Right.
And then, maybe get fans to switch over and watch, WWE.
You know who I could see being a top guy, actually? Elias.
Mm.
I see potential in him from like an entertainment character point of view. Like I really see him. He's smooth out there that's what it's about. It's that Rock quality. You want to go out there like that. The Rock really nailed what it means to be the WWE superstar, to be like the wrestler and the character.
Yeah.
You didn't think Strowman?
Strowman, no, I don't think so. Strowman's good, but I don't know. It's hard to say with him. I don't think he has a lot of charisma, but not the right kind of charisma.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you want to be also an attractive, like, kind of too, you know what I mean? Like normal run-of-the-mill attractive, not like oddity attractive. It's hard to explain. Like he doesn't have that like poster boy handsomeness about him that you need to be like. So there's like a lot of check boxes on that list.
He won't be on Good Morning America,
right?
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Like it sucks because some wrestlers have some things checked off. Like there's a list of things you need to do to be, and you need to check off everything on the list to be the quintessential WWE superstar. And some of them check off some of them and not others. And it's just like missing that one thing that, you know, and that's the problem is not any of them have that total package. The entire list checked off. They're handsome. They're good in the ring. They got charisma. They're good on the mic. They got to check off everything. Like Braun is missing one or two of those things. Yeah. And same thing with Seth Rollins and the same thing with a lot of these other guys, you know. And so it's tough to say. And I go to work when I go to work in the morning. People talk to me about wrestling all the time, and Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, still to this day, 2018.
Remember those names?
They're not talking about who's on Raw on Monday. They're still talking about Andre the Giant.
Yeah,
is Andre the Giant still wrestling? He's dead.
Yeah, seriously.
Like what is he still? He's been dead for 25 years.
Yeah, that's kind of tough. I don't think there's really nobody that's there like now that you can like make like. At that level, like Roman Reigns, John Cena.
Well, like it's household name. That's the key. You could be as good as you could be the best wrestler in the world, but you have to be a household name.
That's the thing,
in a non-wrestling house, 4 people in a non-wrestling house in Missouri, United States, have to know you to talk about you at their dinner table, even though they've never watched wrestling before. Oh, you know that Hulk Hogan guy, or you know that Andre the Giant guy. That's what that means. That's like that household name quality, and I don't think a lot of wrestlers have that today.
And
like,
I think those names that they actually have right now are kind of people that aren't really like WWE people. You got Ronda Rousey, which everybody knows. That's a household name.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, but is she really WWE? I mean, you still think of her as an MMA fighter, and you know, then you got Brock Lesnar. It's the same thing. And then there's the older guys. You got Kurt Angle, who's trying to make a resurgence. You know, that's an old name. Those are really like the superstars that if I told anybody that didn't really watch wrestling, they would know those names.
Right.
But if I said any of those other names, Seth Rollins, you might get like 50-50 on that.
Right.
But it's like...
And it's a catch-22 because to become that household name, you have to lose some of the qualities that wrestling fans really look for in wrestlers. Like, we want wrestling fans, real hardcore wrestling fans, want their Seth Rollins to be like that. But there's an entertainment side to it that means that, like, you have to transcend that to become that household name. It's not about what wrestling fans want, and that's the John Cena quality. Like John Cena is probably the closest one today to having that, but like The Rock is again the best example because today with all the movies he does is that's what really puts him
the highest grossing actor last year.
He is, isn't he? He's the highest paid actor in Hollywood or something like that. I heard
he's in everything. Any movie you turn around, it's like he's in it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's nuts. I don't even know how he has time to be in all these films. It's nuts, man. It's crazy.
Do you think we're going to see Brock Lesnar versus The Rock at WrestleMania this year?
I hope not. I want The Rock.
Do you want to see Brock Lesnar versus The Rock?
No, I want actually, you know what? I want to see The Rock interrupt Elias. That's what I would like to see. Yeah, if I were booking, that's what I would do. I would have The Rock interrupt Elias. Something, some kind.
Elias is he's a face now.
Honestly, I could never see Rock wrestle again. I'll die happy, man. I'd much rather see The Rock come out and just do segments. Yeah. I think he's much more entertaining when he's doing segments. Like a couple of years ago, like the introduction of Ronda Rousey a few years at WrestleMania. That was a segment that was more effective than him actually wrestling in my opinion.
You didn't like Second in a Lifetime?
No,
I didn't.
You didn't like First in a Lifetime.
I didn't even like
when
the
Rock
first.
wrestles, what do you want to see? You just want to see the people's elbow, really.
Rock is an okay wrestler, but he's nothing special.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's true.
Him and John Cena stole the show at Survivor Series against the Awesome Truth, man.
Yeah,
that's the Awesome Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, I think it's time to wrap up.
Never before, never again. The greatest tag team.
You are not. You know.
Well, gentlemen.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. King Tech fans. They want to connect with you on social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. How can they find you?
Instagram, The Fighting King 1968,
Nice.
which is the year of Vietnam. Twitter is _tech_tweets_, which I think is a creative name for a Twitter handle. And my Facebook is my real name, Andrew Lance Mack. Yep, you heard it here. You heard it here first. That's my breaking that kayfabe. That's my name. You can find me on Facebook. But you can also, there is a tech Facebook page, just TEK,
Nice.
which I'm eternally grateful that I got to that before anybody else did. I actually have the tech, in my own.
Yeah.
Some guys have to put like tech 02567889 or something like
yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just because
yeah.
tech is already taken, and I'm happy that I got it before anybody else got it.
Nice.
Nice.
And for us, King Tech, thank you so much for taking out the time,
Mhm.
talking with us, answering our question. Giving us an insight into your world. And for us, we are Wrestling IQ 101. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm Andrew, alongside Derek as always.
Yep.
You can listen to us right here on YouTube, or listen to us on the B Plus player against all platforms wherever podcasts are found. Thanks, guys.
We're out. You have just listened to the Wrestling IQ 101 podcast, powered by B Plus Player Radio.
One more for the good guy.